It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, and as is our want, we love Tim's backgrounds from week to week. I mean, it's it's the sequel to Game of Thrones. Winter is still there. What's going on, Tim?
What's being sarcastic. I'm making it look like it's a worse blizzard than it actually was. I mean, they've been telling us for a week that winter storm warnings. Oh, this is going to be the big one. And we got like an inch of snow.
Well, the thing is that the weather people have to have a certain quantum of snow per winter, and we haven't had it. So by comparison, I mean, this is like, when it snows an inch in Atlanta, and it hasn't been bad at all. We got February. Oh my. Well, they'll close schools for anything. If it isn't a Monday holiday, it's going to be a weather thing. Thing is, they're still operating on the COVID schedule. So
what a lot of people don't realize, the reason why school starts in August now is because they put in 2 days of snow days. They presuppose there's going to be 2 weeks of snow days throughout the year. And because they don't want their June vacation plans delayed. So that's like when we were kids, that's what it was. If you got a snow day, you went an extra day in June. Now they have 2 weeks of snow days
That's true.
And so they got to use them. So
of course, when we went, it wasn't like, everybody's going to summer camp for 8 weeks. After that, you were just going to run around the neighborhood. Like you were Ray Bradbury's character in Dandelion Wine, just wandering around Greenville and having a great. But now, no, everybody's programmed. They got to go on, to camp for 8 weeks. So, I understand it. But anyway, let's turn our attention. I don't, really, it's, it's in line with, the snow. There's really not all that much disaster going around in politics now. It's kind of in a holding pattern. I guess the latest thing was that Mike Pence also has classified documents. So I was willing to make this trade, to have our classified documents fantasy league. If you would you be willing to send Trump and Pence to jail if Biden could go to jail too? I mean, would that work for you? You knock off an incumbent president.
No, you gotta get rid of Kamala too. So it's a trade 2 for 2. I'm not going to do 2 for 1. I'll do 2 for 2. And then
I do it because if she got to be president, then she gets almost a half a term to really show her mettle, which isn't there.
Which would be
and
great
imagine her
for
giggling
Republicans.
through every crisis. It would be. You'd see special elections, for Republicans. The Democrats would say, we'll take even more George Santos's, anything. But
100 school,
so,
100 school children died in a Ukrainian school bombing.
The inappropriate laughing president. So I would take that deal. Now, I mean, it was just interesting, and of course, they're trying to say, well, Trump was different because he tried to obstruct justice, even though Biden didn't even know that this stuff was there. But that's not the basis of the crime. The crime has nothing to do with negligence. When you take those those top secret documents, if you don't care for them, it's strict liability. You're supposed to go to jail for 10 years, like a lot of people who don't hold federal office have gone to jail, but somehow. People like Hillary and Biden are exempt, but Trump we should nail on the process crime of obstructing justice. So,
well, here's the thing: Trump can take those documents out of a skiff. That's his prerogative. He can take them out, and but he can't do it on there.
Yeah, but he can't do that. After the fact, right?
What do you mean?
Anyway, I just think the whole thing. now, especially with Pence involved in it, I don't think it really resonates that much with the American people. I mean, the funniest thing is just seeing Biden on that 60 Minutes interview where he is he is so earnest, about how bad it is for Trump. Forget about stonewalling the feds over it. Just the basic, underlying supposed crime. How dare you take these documents that I myself have had since I was a senator and I don't even realize it. So, it's, now it's just a joke.
Well, of course, the fun part's going to be is to see if those documents match any of Hunter's emails.
Would be wonderful. Be wonderful
because
if that happens. Well, that's the investigation, right? The
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure. They're investigating that.
Oh, nobody's investigating. Well, maybe, some Republicans will do that. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene will, earn her chops by doing that. I thought, Kevin McCarthy, we don't have the soundbite right here, but some reporter asked him about Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell. And, McCarthy's really been pilloried the last few weeks, but he really nailed the reporter on the question. He said, hey, Swalwell was sleeping. It was somebody said a literal honey trap. Swalwell is sleeping with a Chinese spy. We're not putting him on Intel. That's all there's to it. And of course, Schiff, lied all over the place, including about Hunter's laptop. So
leaked and lied. He leaked. Yeah. He leaked intel that he wasn't that he got from the committee.
Right. So it's just I thought McCarthy acquitted himself very well. For a guy who has a bad rap for some reason. And I didn't even have a problem that much with the 15 ballots. That's democracy. It's messy. It's very messy. So,
well, I think that's part of the reason why McCarthy came down on that reporter so hard is he knows he's hanging there by one representative. That's all it takes to call a no confidence vote. So, he's up to game.
Well, and when they have the debt ceiling problem, that's where he's gonna slip into oblivion possibly. You're in favor of shutting down the government, I assume. I need my Social Security check.
You still get that. You have to get that by law. By law, you have to get your Social Security check. They can't. That still goes out. Basically, what happens?
Well, where
17% of the government shuts down. It's essentially another hot national holiday. That's all it is, and they get paid too. It's a paid holiday for gosh sake.
Because remember when they were shutting down the national parks, they made sure to shut down the visible things that stung everyone. But
there was some guy that gave reindeer rides or something, and CNN just, hey, I've got to feed my family beans because I don't have. But
I think you're minimizing the impact that it could have. And Republicans usually get blamed for this stuff, except I guess in 2011.
The impact it all had was generated by the media, and now with the internet, I don't know that the media has that kind of power to create that impact. It's going to be like when the New Jersey government shut down? Wasn't that when Chris Christie was photographed on the beach?
Oh right, yeah.
That's what's going to happen this time. It's not going to. Did you ever notice that
it's okay to make fun of Chris Christie's girth, but you can't make fun of women and how they look. You could never. it was okay to lionize Michelle Obama's arms. Okay, Ellen doing push-ups next to Michelle Obama, and I don't know if they were girl push-ups or guy push-ups, but whatever they were, it was just wonderful. Let's adore the first lady's arms, and once you open the door there, then you could talk about other parts of the body. That's my opinion, but I know that it doesn't work that way. It's a double standard. And
speaking of first ladies, did you see that Jill is donating her dresses to the Smithsonian?
Really?
Yeah, they're going to use them to reupholster Archie Bunker's chair.
Okay. Hi-oh. Do I get veal with that? Okay. So So let's turn our attention to something another thing that I don't really understand. So we're going to be sending these Abrams tanks, I guess, because the Germans were demanding that we do that if they send the Leopard too. Of course, I always get nervous with German nomenclature regarding their weaponry, like Panzer divisions and Leopards, and because it reminds me of WWII.
Is Panzer just Panther with a German accent? Is that? I always thought it was.
I believe it's probably that's what it is. That's what it is. Probably.
It's a black Panther. So it's it's not a Panther.
So it gets me a little nervous.
It's a leopard.
But
it's not as dark.
I know that you're an expert. You're an expert on foreign affairs, and my belief is, the Biden administration is very concerned, and I know you're one of those. You don't want us to spend a penny on this, but assuming that it's worthwhile to suspend on this and fight this proxy battle for Europe with Russia over Ukraine, that do we really have to worry about the Russians escalating if we worried about that when we sent the Patriot missiles, we worried about it at other times as well. They're not going to go nuclear on us if we send some tanks. Am I right about that?
Yeah. And the upside is that we will learn how well our tanks stand up to the Russian military. It's an incredible learning opportunity.
Well, I mean, this is a great, if you have to fight a war, we're not sending any troops in. This is the way to do it. And I know a lot of people are saying we're going to be short of military might, but unfortunately, we have the big bear over there is not quite as important as China, but it is something that we do have to consider, I guess. Well, all right, let's turn to some foolishness after we come back. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
We made in the Declaration of Independence that we are each endowed with the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Yes, that is the hot topic buzz. Vice President Kamala Harris left out the right to life as she quoted the Declaration of Independence during her remarks at a pro-abortion event in Tallahassee, Florida yesterday.
Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, and I think she's like part of a game show here where you just like Wheel of Fortune. I'd like to buy a noun here. But of course she had to leave life out.
Yeah, because it starts with
pretty
life.
Smart.
She'd have to say the Declaration guarantees a right to life. She would have been booed off stage before she'd be allowed to say liberty in pursuit of happiness.
But if you just say liberty in pursuit of happiness, that's like saying Larry and Curly and leaving out Mo. You got to have it's a package deal there. Or the
she didn't even put in. She didn't even put in Shemp.
Right. It's just it's. The chutzpah of doing that. How could you don't go with the Declaration? Go with something. Go with the Constitution, the preamble of the Constitution, if she knows it. But yeah, you can't go with life, liberty, and which, by the way, and we should go back to life, liberty, and property. But they kind of watered it down with pursuit of happiness. But okay.
Well, it's actually it makes it kind of funny if you think about it. Is that she's essentially saying the right to abortion is enshrined in the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
That's right. No, it's guaranteed by the Constitution that men can have unprotected sex without concern of child support. That's the pursuit of happiness.
Sure. Yeah, the pursuit of happiness, I guess. So no, it's look, if you're going to find a right to abortion in the penumbras and emanations of the Constitution, I'm sure you could incorporate it somehow in the Declaration as well. So there's a really confusing story. This story about this FBI guy who was retired. Excuse me. His name is McGonigal, and he wasn't exactly accused of espionage, but he wanted to go to work for a Russian oligarch, and of course, immediately people are leaping on this to try to show that somehow Trump was involved with the Russians, or and it's such a stretch, because this guy, yeah, he did go to work for the oligarch later, but he was under, I guess, Mueller's control during the investigation, and he even tried to ask a judge to renew the wiretap on Carter Page. So he was doing stuff against Trump, but people are trying to somehow connect him up to the he's with the Russian oligarch. He's the guy that somehow tethers Donald Trump to the Russian. Yeah, it doesn't even make any sense.
It's the old adage is that if you want to know what a Democrat is doing, just look at what they're accusing Trump of, or Republicans of doing. It's a perfect example.
See
it's
Joe Biden on 60 Minutes talking about documents.
It's I would check to see if McGonigal ever paid hookers to pee on a bed.
Possibly. There's another conspiracy theory that I don't even know if I'm going to wade into it, because it's something about dealing with Manafort, who had close ties to who was close to a Russian sympathizer in Ukraine, and that meant that Putin wanted Trump as president. But it falls apart. I mean, they're just grasping at things. It doesn't really work. But anyway, I never understood
why
there's not that much there.
Why Putin would want Trump for president. I mean, he had no idea whether or not Trump can be bribed. He had already paid off Hillary. I mean, it's like he not only knew she was corrupt, he knew the price.
What was it that what was
it was a half a million. It was like $500,000 into the Clinton Foundation, bought all the uranium.
Oh
supplies.
Yeah, right. Part of that. Sure. I mean, that was all bleach fitted out, wasn't it? Something ultimately.
With a cloth.
I'm sorry. Oh,
you mean with a cloth?
We're done. Oh, the cloth. With the Hillary. Yeah. No, there's this reporter, William Kelly. He calls himself a reporter, and I think I've seen him at press conferences for Pritzker or whatever, and he's even been embarrassing to me, and I like a guy who asks embarrassing questions. But he did some video of Michigan Avenue and State Street showing how empty it is. The problem is, I mean, some of this stuff is like on a Sunday morning, which, it's always been that way. So if you want to show something that's representative, you might want to do it during business hours.
There is no business hours. Look at those, are all empty storefronts. They're all empty. Empty. There's nothing. There's no one. And the most telling part of this is that we had to actually have a reporter go down there and show it to us, because none of us have been there.
Right. We don't know. I actually asked my best friend who still works downtown, and he says, when you walk back to the train station, whereas it used to be like at 5 o'clock, there was the throngs walking to the train station. Now you can actually count the number of people that are walking to the train station. So, it might be under 100. So it's a little difficult, but, the Irv Kupcinet statue on Bullmish.
Sure.
I mean, he used to call it Bullmish all the time. Bullmish. He's he's weeping right now because I mean, and somebody sent me that the vacancy rate for stores and offices, is pretty high downtown. So, but I
had to do a corporate gig at top of the Sears Tower back in December. And accidentally got stuck on one of the floors in between the ground level and the sky deck, and that was creepy. It was completely. It was like the Die Hard movie.
Oh yeah,
it was creepy. There was nothing, and the worst part is you can't. It's once you're let off on a floor, you can't get back on the elevator now. You have to call
really?
Security to come up and get you. Yeah. So we were trapped for a while. We were trapped for about 10 minutes in this vacant, and it just, wow.
yeah, it's kind of sad. I think that, a lot of this was COVID inspired, but
Sure.
it's also the crime as well. And speaking of crime, so the Illinois gun law is being challenged. The Constitution. We discussed we had our constitutional arguments last week.
Sure.
And I think we cleared the whole thing up there constitutionally. but if you watch if you know anything about Second Amendment law, Heller and its progeny, the Bruin case. I'm just throwing names at you, dropping names, but it is Kevin Williamson in the Dispatch had an interesting essay about how Pritzker says the gun law will deter straw purchasers, but then our own attorney general in Illinois doesn't even know how often straw purchasers are prosecuted right now. Of course, if you essentially close down gun shops with this law, which it might in a de facto sense do, you'd knock out all purchasers, including the straw ones. But it's just
how would that knock out the straw purchasers? It seems to me that it would encourage.
Well, I mean, if the gun shops are, remember we talked about how one gun shop owner said, well, he had like 3,700 arms in his gun shop, and this would affect like 3,000 of them. So basically, it would knock them out of business. And
or move them to Indiana, Wisconsin, Kentucky.
Right,
Missouri, Iowa.
Right.
There's too many states on the border of
but
Illinois.
I mean, theoretically, right. I mean, if it happens in Illinois and the gun shops aren't open, well, you can't have the straw purchasers or any purchasers for that matter
in Illinois
frequent your store.
In Illinois, yeah.
In Illinois, no, absolutely. So
I think what we should do instead, maybe we should just outlaw murder.
Nah, it's been done, and it doesn't really work. So in California, this is kind of a unicorn in California, I guess, because it's these laws prohibiting the sale of AR-15s and the like. I mean, to me, are designed to go after the 18-year-old nutty kid, but this was a 72-year-old guy who did this, and as Chris, our producer,
he
said,
he did it with a pistol, though, right?
I think so. He had a couple of different, one that came from like 1999. But he
the last time the assault weapon ban was in force.
Right. So, but Chris, our producer, mentioned that I think it was CNN mentioned the color of the van, which is white. It's a couple or three times before it ever mentioned the color of the alleged perpetrator. So I thought you were allowed to mention that color, but I thought there was only one other kind of color that was prohibited.
No, you're actually not allowed.
I'd like to end this segment.
You're not allowed to mention the color of the shooter. You can call him Asian.
It depends if it's white.
Oh, okay. Well, no, but I mean, in this case, you're not allowed.
No, right. No, not in this case.
That's the Y word.
Let's close the segment on a kissy face note. Did you see that Google has laid off its in-house massage therapists, which leads me to say it's an unhappy ending for them. Okay, that's a pretty happy ending to this segment. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Teaching kids facts and how to think, but we don't believe they should have an agenda imposed on them. When you try to use Black history to shoehorn in queer theory, you are clearly trying to use that for political purposes.
What message do you feel this ban may have communicated to your student?
I think it communicates very clearly that African American history is not as important as other history.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And Desantis said he wasn't going to teach queer theory, and I'm imagining Trump going, what the heck is queer theory? But DeSantis got that Ivy League education, so he knows what he's talking about. It's interesting because we've got a big question of states' rights right here, Tim, because our very own Governor Pritzker has told AP that courses that he wants queer theory taught in our AP classes. And so it's a state by state thing, except the AP tries to be national. And so I don't know how they're going to reconcile all that, but it's a battle between the states now.
Do you think Pritzker knows?
Aren't you happy that our state?
Do you think Pritzker knows what queer theory is?
I doubt it.
I mean, he probably thinks evolution is a queer theory.
Right. But it is interesting, that there's going to be this battle over this. Well, it's all critical theory. It's Marxism. I mean, you can't teach that in school. Well, look, Illinois already orders teachers to teach gender fluidity. As far as I'm concerned, we went wrong my sophomore year in high school when I was the first one to get a 9-week course in sex education. What? Why don't we learn it in the back alleys? Where you're supposed to. So I mean,
I miss the days when Dad would take you down to the red light district and give you $20 and let you learn the facts of life.
You knew that we were gonna come to this day. I mean, I don't and every time I think about what are they teaching the kids in school, I have to pinch myself and say I haven't been in high school in more than 50 years. So right. It's frightening to me to think what they
that's a half
could
century.
Possibly be teaching. Yeah, because what were they teaching 50 years before that, I wonder. So I don't even want to see it. And the problem is why don't they just teach, and pardon me channeling my best Jethro Bodine, but why aren't they teaching reading and writing and ciphering, and forget about all these esoteric things and I understand it's an AP class, but there's plenty of AP stuff that you could learn as a high school student anyway, without getting into queer theory and all this. Fine, that's for a graduate course, at some highfalutin college. But why do they have to do it there? They haven't even gotten the basics as far as this reporter is concerned.
Wasn't there something about schools not recognizing AP classes if they were attended by a white student? Didn't you see something about that? So
probably
no. That some guy took AP classes and the teacher refused to give them to allow them to transfer. I don't know where I saw that.
So this is not some Tim Slagle comedy bit right here.
No.
Right.
This is actual. This is ripped from the headlines.
All right. Well, speaking of the schools, the Chicago Public Schools actually have a sex abuse problem. It's not risen to the level of the Catholic Church a generation ago, but there is sexual misconduct allegations anyway in the Chicago school system. It's interesting because as somebody wrote, there was a professor at Harvard's law school named Elizabeth Bartlett, who argued at the beginning of the pandemic that we ought to criminalize homeschooling because, according to her, that violates a child's right to be protected from child abuse. Because obviously, children are going to be abused in their homes, where their parents probably abused them by not teaching critical race theory and queer theory. But now it turns out that our very own Chicago Public Schools, which have very nice, powerful teachers union that protects its teachers, has this problem. So
is it between students? Is that what?
No, the sexual abuse is teachers doing it to students.
Oh.
And I mean,
wow,
it's yeah, and
wow. So there's no need to send your kid to Catholic school.
Exactly.
He can get that at the public school now.
We you don't need your vouchers for some charter school. We got it all covered here for you, the whole range of experience. Speaking of schools and parents and the power that parents have over their kids. There was some survey that showed that Asian parents have the least fun parenting. And I didn't, because I have no attention span, I didn't actually even read beyond the tweet there from Lyman Stone and the chart, which showed that Asian parents had the least fun. I'm just going to intuit the reason for it. It's probably the least fun for them because they're the most intense parents. They make the most demands. I mean, if you're watching over your kid and saying, that was only 4 hours of Suzuki violin today. Now I want you to do 6 or 7, whereas other parents take a laissez-faire attitude. Of course, it's more fun for the other parents. That's anyway my conclusion.
Helicopter? Heck no. Black Hawk gunship.
Yeah. Really. So I could see why, maybe they ought to lighten up a little bit.
And I would guess that a poll they didn't do would find out that Asian kids have the least fun being kids.
Exactly. They certainly do. Well, it's better in the United States where at least they get to be kids as opposed to China where they never are created. They've got a nice little that one child policy really has come back to bite them in China right now. The nation is losing.
They don't have gnarled fingers from assembling iPhones 12 hours a day here in America. So,
right. So, Chrisick suggested I do my Brucervation, which is an imitation of Cup, channeled through Robert Feeder. The problem is that he gave me about 4 topics that I should do, and I can't carry the Cup voice for more than a sentence or 2 before I start choking on my words. So, yes, this is Rotten Media served up fresh weekly Brucervations. Lin Brehmer died. Did you know who Lin Brehmer was? Did you ever follow him?
I actually did not.
You had any idea who Lin Brehmer was?
I know more about him now
it's
than
interesting
I knew
because
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, I think Lin Brehmer was a media guy who's the favorite of everybody in the media, including me. I mean, I knew Lin, and Lin was actually, he worked for WXRT, which, and it's a lefty station, but Lin was kind of everybody's. What did he say was his motto? Something like I'm the best, your best friend in the world. A very smart guy, but I used to be his emergency golfer. I would be on WLS radio doing a morning shift. He was on WXRT, but we knew our priorities. Call me up and say, look, after our shifts are done, can you make it to Glencoe Golf Course at such and such time? And I said, oh, look, I'm going to, because I've got, I've got a time taken there and, I want to make it. And he needed me to be, part of his foursome. And I remember I'm on the Kennedy at the junction, and I call him up and I say, Lin, I'm only at the junction right now. I'm not going to make it. And Lin says, I'm 5 blocks behind you. We're going to make it. So we did make it. And, he was just a very nice guy and very smart as well. And he had this bit called Lin's Bin, and he had, great observations about, like the retirement of Ernie Banks and other things. One of my favorite little lines. The thing about working on XRT is that it's not like, like when I work with Brandmeier or Dahl or those guys where it was all talk all the time. It was a music station, and Lin only got certain little segments in which to display his wares, but he could back sell a song in a funny way. He had to play, and I'm sure he was forced to do this when they expanded their playlist. He had to play Elton John's Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, and which is something that XRT, the avant-garde station, wouldn't want to play, but he was forced to play it. And he goes, after the song's over, he goes, Elton John, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. Tough guy, so which I mean, it was great. So, he died of prostate cancer. He was only 68 years old, and everybody in the media, it's fascinating. I got a little envious. I'm glad I'm alive, but it was like, there's no way people are going to go on Twitter for me the way they did for Lin Brehmer. But well loved, great Cub fan. I enjoyed. I knew him, and I mean, if he knew somebody like me, who gets blocked on Twitter by by lots of people, and still liked me, that shows how universal Lin's appeal was. I was at the Bulls game.
Well, that's probably because he only got to
night.
talk for a couple minutes at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe part of it. You get to talk for 4 hours a day. You're going to put your foot in your mouth a lot. I'll tell you what, when we come back, among other things, we'll talk about the fact that I was at the Bulls game Monday night and had a great time there. But I felt a little lousy because the national anthem singer, and she was great, but they had the words on the scoreboard for her. And I don't want Star Spangled Karaoke. I want you to have to know that by heart. I mean, maybe she did know it by heart, but she had to read the. We could all read it, I guess. Why don't they have an AP course in that? Memorize the Star Spangled Banner, for crying out loud. All right, Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
Your clothes, Yogi, your clothes. Gosh, Yogi, we're indecent. Well, let's see what the Jellystone Handbook says about bare-naked bears. Here we go. Article 1, Section 3. Forest animals must not go naked. Each beast must wear at least one item of human attire. There it is in black and white.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wraps. So A&W decided to put some pants on its bear logo, bear mascot. And I thought, the Cubs came up with a mascot a few years ago, Clark the Bear, and he didn't have any pants on. I don't know that they have put pants on him since that. I haven't followed.
Well, I think bears can wear pants now that they use Charmin. I think that was always the issue. That was the issue in the past. They could never get clean. So now that they have
and the question, of course, was sure that was the answer to the question: does a bear use Charmin in the woods? I remember that question.
Now here's my question. Here's my question: was the bear? I thought the bear always had jeans. I didn't know that he was a bare bottom bear.
Apparently not. And of course, you this week, just to show that Tim and I are these big buddies. We don't just fake it for 4 seconds every week. We're in constant communication. No, he sent. Tim sent me a cartoon this week. It was what was it, Yogi and Boo Boo Bear without any pants as well? I assume this. Yeah,
Yogi and Boo Boo coming out of hibernation naked.
Okay, and I assume this was not authorized by Hanna-Barbera. I assume that's Clark
the bare bottom Clark. Yeah,
or the Cub logo. But yeah,
there was a joke I said as Piglet walked further into the 500-mile woods, he suddenly realized that Pooh had no pants on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't put that past A.A. Milne because he was A.A. Milne. I think I've said this before. No, I didn't like reading the Dr. Seuss stuff to my kids, and I've been proven right because now they had an AI, the latest AI concoction came up with a Dr. Seuss book in 10 seconds. They actually did. But A.A. Milne, I was convinced actually hated children. And so when you read these children's stories to the kids, it was all about these, awful kids. But it worked on a couple of levels, and so an adult could laugh at it. So I wouldn't be surprised if what you said actually transpired in the
well, he hated kids. He named his kid Christopher Robin and sent him to school in Mary Jane's. Did you get beat up again, Christopher? Right. Yes, Daddy, I did. Oh.
It's like it's a boy named Sue. It's the same thing. It toughens you up. Pardon my Johnny Cash there. So, meanwhile, even more important news, apparently the state of Illinois is making certain license plates verboten, certain vanity plates. Like you cannot have the word stolen on your license plate, which I think it's great that why not have that?
Sure,
but
sure. And maybe it's
but you can't have
maybe
that. I had a law bus. Okay, I lost you. I lost you.
Oh.
Yeah. But
okay.
You can't put sucker on it or hail no. I had a law boss years ago who had the word stupper on his license plate, which is Yiddish for
Yeah, I know. I think we got it.
Yeah, we got it. We got it.
I heard that somebody got in trouble because he wanted FJBLGB.
Well, that's like the game PDQ with Dennis James, as I recall. Let me try and figure. You know what the problem with that is that you're going to tailgate somebody. It's just to try to figure that out. It's not the substance of it.
You cannot have game show questions as a license plate.
It's too hazardous. Meanwhile, in other news, Taco Bell has eliminated human beings. I don't know if this is nationwide or if this is a pilot program, but they've eliminated humans when you order, and I'm not sure. I think the cooks, that's loosely put, are still human, but everything is automated at least one Taco Bell. Yeah, it's the latest company to eliminate human interaction. It would be funny if they still get your order wrong. So
is it AI? Is it AI through when you pull up to the drive-through?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, right.
So it's like one of those annoying phone things. It's if you'd like a taco, press 1.
Right. It's like, and I mean it's fine. But here's the problem. The worst thing about this is if this spreads to all fast food franchises, if they ever do a remake of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, half the comedy of the Judge Reinhold bathroom scene will be lost because he won't be wearing that ridiculous fast food company uniform. And I don't want to even think about an automated Phoebe Cates. So yeah, it's just I hate the world that we're becoming right now.
Well, I think in the future all the fast food restaurants are just going to be one giant vending machine. Is it just you go, you punch what you want, the robots make it for you, and it slides out the chute.
Well, and then won't all the you know what really bothered me a few years ago when I saw that they had these machines in various fast food restaurants where you just press the button and there were all these different kinds of Coke products and it all came out of the same machine. What if you just go to some place and it has every kind of fast food imaginable? I mean, why do you have to go to different brick and mortar places to go to Wendy's or McDonald's? I mean, you can have it all in one spot and it could just burp out, whatever you want. So
we think it's a luxury that we can fill up our own Coke cup at the fast food restaurant. Do you know why they do that? Somebody hit me out of that. Is that the cost of people taking free refills is less than the cost it takes to hire someone sitting at the fountain all day going ksh, ksh.
Wow.
So it's actually cheaper just to hand you a cup and essentially, yeah, they're making you a fast food employee.
But I'm, me being on the honor system, I will not take the refill, even if it's free. Well, it's just, it seems to me like it's cheating. But now,
I don't do the refill. I don't do the refill, but I don't put the ice in there, so I get twice as much.
Yeah, I know. You got to put the right amount of ice, though. It's got to be a little bit of ice. But no, I understand what you're saying. So Aretha Franklin. Her song. I mean, how could anybody think that anything that Aretha Franklin ever did was bad? As Steely Dan said in Hey 19, she doesn't remember the Queen of Soul. Aretha Franklin was an icon, but now not so much because her song "Natural Woman" apparently is being deemed offensive by the trans community. So I mean, you make me feel so guilty all the time. I mean, you can't sing that natural woman? Can't we just grandmother in her song? I can't believe.
It sounds like a song that a transgender person would want sung to him,
right?
By or sung to them by a binary male. It's like, oh, you're treating me just like a natural woman. Oh my gosh!
No,
even though I haven't been altered yet, I feel like a natural woman.
It's what I love is when all the cool people of the past, it's like you're turning Aretha Franklin into Robert E. Lee statue at this point. Everybody in the past is wrong. Everybody, everybody's Hitler. Everybody's awful because nobody learned gender fluidity in high school, and so we all have to be sent back. We have to be recalled and go back to high school to learn all that stuff.
Well, the older we get, the closer we get to being
about
recalled. So.
Well, I always tell people, especially on Twitter, I say when somebody argues with me that I believe in all these retro things, I said, "Don't worry, I'm going to be dead soon. You can change everything." Oh boy! So
I'll learn your pronouns when I'm dead.
Oh my goodness! I mean, can you imagine? That has not become universal yet. There's been a resistance to that. I mean, we may have, actually hit the wall because everybody is not taking that up. And anytime I see it and a signature, I mean, I don't even want to read what the person wrote.
You know what my nephew said? You know what my nephew?
Read,
I gotta share this. I don't think he listens to the program. So I got an argument. He's very concerned that proper pronouns are used, but he actually said to me, "What's the difference between who and whom?" Oh,
well, we've eliminated that.
Mr. Pronoun.
I'm so bad that first of all, I still call God the Lord, because I know in some sects they try to avoid any, even though in my religion there is a female aspect of God. I still call God the Lord, and I will use, just to stick it in your face, I'll use his for everything, because it used to be that his covered, because now we use their, THEIR, even though it's plural for singular, so you don't have to have the gender change, but I'll still use his. And
so it sounds like I
haven't given up.
Sounds like we're speaking Ebonics, doesn't it? They has a red car.
Well, I hope that we get banished from the podcast universe. It's about time. What do I have to do? Anyway, a pleasure as always, Tim, Bruce Wolf, and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.